So if you had to name the single greatest predictor of a leader's future impact, what would it be?
Hmm.
I mean, we usually look at the resume
Right, right.
or the title or maybe that really impressive 5-year strategic plan.
Sure, the usual metrics.
But our sources today suggest something. Well, something very different. You can tell almost everything you need to know long before a crisis ever hits.
Yeah, that's right.
The key, the biggest signal, is watching what they refuse to compromise. That invisible line they won't cross.
Yeah.
They're non-negotiables. That's what predicts their real influence.
It really does.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're exploring how defining your own moral compass isn't just a feel-good exercise. It's a hard-nosed competitive advantage in leadership today.
And we have to start with a pretty uncomfortable truth, I think.
Okay.
It's that credibility alone. It doesn't get results. A lot of leaders are honest, they're reliable, but that doesn't automatically equal power or influence. Credibility only becomes power when it's anchored to a clear personal moral compass. And the key is it has to be defined before the pressure hits, not, assembled in the middle of a disaster.
Because if it's not in place, you just default to reacting to whatever's loudest.
Yeah.
So let's unpack that. Why is this so critical right now?
Well, the modern landscape is just built on instability. I mean, ambiguity is everywhere. Ethical shortcuts are easier and easier to justify.
Especially with quarterly targets looming.
Exactly. And public expectations are changing so fast. So any leader who's just relying on their past experience or their technical skill, they're basically playing from behind.
So the environment itself is almost working against you, trying to erode that compass.
It is. The real differentiator, the strategic advantage, is being able to make a clear, principled call when the right choice isn't obvious at all.
And when the cost of integrity feels
Yeah.
inconvenient or expensive.
That's the moment. That's when the compass earns its keep. Without it, you're just reacting to external noise, the media, shareholders, internal politics. You're operating from reaction.
But with it,
You operate from conviction. And that gives you a clarity under pressure that, frankly, your competitors just can't copy.
so strategy makes you efficient, but it's the values that make you credible. And that credibility, which you earn through a pattern of these decisions, that's the new currency of influence.
It absolutely is. You can't buy loyalty. You can't buy that extra effort from your team. It has to be earned through trust.
And that trust comes from seeing a consistent pattern,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially when the decisions are tough.
Exactly. Especially when nobody's watching.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. But let's get into the nuts and bolts. How is a value actually built? The source material calls it an invisible architecture. What does that mean?
It means a value isn't just a word you pick, like honesty on a poster. It follows a path. It starts as a deeply held belief.
Like a belief in truth, for instance.
Belief in truth, yeah. Then that belief solidifies into a principle, a kind of rule for how you operate. And then finally, it's embraced as a personal conviction. That's the non-negotiable part.
And that conviction, that's the destination. And once it's there, it's not a concept anymore. It starts acting like an internal filter.
Precisely. It literally guides how you perceive the world. If your conviction is excellence, you just notice details that other people dismiss as good enough. It tells you what to pay attention to.
Okay, so that bridge from belief to active filter is key. But the place where a lot of leaders fall down is turning that abstract idea into concrete criteria. You can't just say, my value is integrity and leave it there.
No, you can't. That is the critical bridge. A value is just an aspiration until you translate it into operational criteria. You have to ask the if-then question for every single conviction.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's say your value is honesty. The operational bit isn't just don't lie. It's if we have a major product failure, then we will proactively report the worst case outcome to the market before it leaks.
Regardless of the hit to the stock price.
Regardless, that's where it becomes real. Or take respect. The rule could be, if a manager gets 3 anonymous complaints, then an independent investigation is automatically triggered within 48 hours.
No matter who the manager is.
No matter how high-performing they are. It moves respect from a feeling to a non-negotiable filter.
That level of detail is really where the rubber meets the road. And to see this in action, the sources give us a great case study, Nehemiah.
Yeah.
We remember him as a project manager who rebuilt a wall, but really, he was a leader who rebuilt a nation's confidence. And he did it with his non-negotiables.
And that's the key. His results came from his consistency. He showed his values in these high-stakes public decisions, and that consistency is what builds trust.
So let's talk about the first one.
Yeah.
Operationalizing justice. There was a huge internal crisis happening.
Oh, it was explosive. While he was focused on the external threat, the wealthy nobles inside the city were just preying on the poor, charging insane interest rates, seizing land, even forcing people to sell their children into servitude to pay off debts. It was a moral rot from within.
And he needed those same nobles to help fund the wall.
Yeah.
So that's a moment ripe for compromise.
You'd think so. But he didn't hedge. He didn't have quiet meetings. He was instantly and publicly furious.
What did he do?
He confronted them in front of everyone and demanded full restitution. Now, the land, the vineyards, the children, all of it returned. His principle was clear. Ethical treatment comes before financial gain or political convenience.
A huge risk.
A massive risk. But he put people over the powerful, and that restored internal trust.
He also modeled selfless service, which was a big contrast to the leaders before him.
A huge contrast. Previous governors had taxed the people heavily to fund their own lavish lifestyles. Nehemiah's non-negotiable was that public office is a trust, a stewardship, not a chance for personal profit.
So what did that look like in practice?
Well, he refused to take the customary governor's food allowance, which was significant. And not only that, he personally paid to feed 150 officials and guests at his own table, out of his own pocket.
Wow.
So when people saw their leader personally sacrificing while demanding sacrifice from the rich, that builds a kind of moral authority you just can't buy.
And the third example is his focus. This one feels very relevant today. With all the digital noise, his enemies try to distract him.
They did. They couldn't beat him with force, so they tried distraction and character attacks. They kept trying to lure him away from the wall for important meetings.
Just to stop the work.
Exactly, to break his focus and make him look panicked.
And his famous response really says it all.
It does. I am carrying on a great project and cannot come down. His non-negotiable was refusing to get pulled into trivial fights or time-wasting distractions. The distraction was the attack, and he knew it.
So what he proves is that his integrity wasn't just some side project to his strategy. His integrity was his strategy.
Yes. That clarity of values created clarity of direction. Which brings us right back to trust.
The trust factor.
It's not a soft skill, it's an economic driver. It's earned through that predictable pattern of consistency. It makes an organization feel secure.
And that security creates a huge difference in effort. You're talking about the difference between, compliance and commitment.
A critical distinction, yeah.
Yeah.
Leaders without that compass, they get compliance. People do what they're told because of rules or fear. But the second the manager's back is turned, the effort stops.
Whereas trust gets you commitment.
It gets you commitment, discretionary effort, ownership, loyalty. People offer solutions without being asked. They stick with you through the hard times.
And that has to show up on the balance sheet. What are the tangible impacts of that high trust environment?
Oh, several. Communication becomes radically more efficient because people are less guarded. Innovation speeds up because people feel safe enough to take risks.
And resilience in a crisis must be way higher.
Amplified because people believe in the mission and the leader.
This all brings it back to today, to what our sources call the transparency economy, where everyone is always watching. You can't really hide your values anymore.
You can't. So the leaders who thrive are the ones who turn their moral compass into an actual management tool, one that aligns profit with principle and results with rightness.
So let's just quickly review the core insights for you listening as you think about your own compass.
Okay. First, defining your moral compass is a proactive, strategic job. It's not something you do when you're forced to react.
Right.
Second, your values are just noise until you translate them into those specific operational if-then criteria that force you to act.
And third, it's the unwavering consistency in applying those criteria that builds trust. And that trust is the ultimate catalyst for real, sustainable results.
And, this whole process, it's a lifelong journey of being intentional. It's not a one-time thing.
It's constant vigilance.
It is. We all know leadership requires sacrifices. But here's the final thought I'd leave you with. When your leadership is remembered, say, 10 years from now, will people recall how effective you were or how faithful you were? The ultimate measure of a leader's power isn't just how far they go, it's how they choose the way forward.